Hi, it's Mark Graban. Welcome to Lean Blog Audio. Today I'm reading a post titled, Starting the New Year with Global Leadership Resolutions, Building a Foundation of Psychological Safety. This is published January 6th, 2025. You can find a link to the blog post in the show notes. During Katie Anderson's Japan study trip this past November, one of the participants shared an observation with me that resonated really deeply. He said, this was in a one-on-one conversation, the biggest challenge is our blame culture. It's easier for people to do nothing because they don't get in trouble. But if they make a mistake, they get punished. And our company is successful enough that there's not a compelling reason for top leaders to change the culture. This isn't a story from the US. I don't want to say where this participant was from, but I think the feeling, unfortunately, is pretty universal. A workplace culture where individuals are punished for mistakes, especially when those mistakes have systemic causes, is a significant barrier to progress, yet alone improvement, innovation, or success. It's a global challenge, and addressing it requires rethinking the way we approach leadership and learning. So let's think about the cost of blame and the need for safety. Organizations that cling to blame-based cultures face hidden costs. These include missed opportunities for innovation, disengaged employees, and the ongoing perpetuation of systemic issues. When people fear punishment, they'll play it safe. Silence becomes their shield, but at the cost of continuous improvement. If we're aiming to build a lean culture, it's got to rest on a foundation of psychological safety. In an environment with, you might say, high enough levels of psychological safety, people will generally feel safe speaking up about problems, sharing ideas, and experimenting without the fear of retribution. Without this psychological safety, even the best lean tools and techniques fall flat. So let's think about lessons from Japan. The companies we visited in Japan as part of Katie's tour provided a stark contrast. Across the board, we saw leaders embracing principles including these two. First, encouraging open communication. Leaders talked about how they aimed to cultivate environments where everybody felt safe to speak up about problems and ideas without the fear of being blamed, punished, or ignored. And then secondly, focusing on systemic causes. Instead of blaming individuals for errors, the emphasis was on understanding and addressing causes that would come from the process or the system. The result? Cultures of learning and improvement that are deeply embedded in these organizations. So as we enter a new year, let's reflect on how we lead and support our teams. Here are two resolutions for leaders aspiring to foster continuous improvement. One, help people feel safe speaking up. Cultivating an environment where team members or team leaders, everybody, feels empowered to share concerns, ideas, and mistakes openly. Don't just tell people they should feel safe. This requires leadership. The second resolution is avoid blame. When things go wrong, focus on understanding and addressing the system rather than finding someone to punish. These aren't just abstract principles, they're practical, actionable steps. They do require a shift in mindset, but offer the potential for really profound transformation. So you can follow the examples that former Toyota leaders Isao Yoshino and David Meyer shared in their episodes of the My Favorite Mistake podcast. You can find links to these episodes in the blog post. I'm going to summarize it a little bit here. You can also go to leanblog.org/audio for another mistake. I'm going to be resilient in the face of my mistakes, and they're compounding now. leanblog.org/audio 406. I know I could go back and edit that, but I'm going to leave in the bloopers. So let's think about Isao Yoshino's story. It's a lesson in learning and reflection. Mr. Yoshino spent 4 decades in leadership roles at Toyota, where he witnessed and lived the company's deep commitment to learning from mistakes. Early in his career, Mr. Yoshino made a mistake while overseeing part of the painting process, putting the wrong chemical into a machine. That error resulted in flawed paint jobs for 100 cars, which required rework and additional costs. In many organizations, such a mistake might lead to blame, reprimand, or even termination. Mr. Yoshino was afraid he was going to get in trouble. But instead, Toyoda's response was fundamentally different. Rather than blaming him, Mr. Yoshino's supervisors apologized for putting him in that position and encouraged him to help examine the root causes of the mistake and identify ways to prevent it from happening again. It was really more an issue of, why was the wrong chemical even delivered to begin with? So this experience taught him and later reinforced a core Toyota principle that problems are opportunities for improvement. Instead of assigning personal fault, the company viewed errors as systemic issues. They created space for reflection and learning. Throughout his career then, Mr. Yoshino was encouraged to experiment, reflect on his methods, and continuously refine his approach. He came to understand that Toyota's culture was built on the foundation of psychological safety, as Mike Hoseas and a handful of other people have written about, and it's also built upon iterative learning. Managers didn't expect perfection from their employees, but they demanded an honest effort to reflect and improve. This approach taught Mr. Yoshino to embrace vulnerability and to view mistakes not as personal failures, but as critical learning opportunities. Over the years, he internalized Toyota's commitment to learning, making it a cornerstone of his leadership style. And then we have the story of David Meyer. He joined Toyota as a production manager in Kentucky, where he experienced firsthand the company's unique approach to dealing with mistakes. And it's not completely unique. Maybe the word rare would be more fitting, a rare approach to mistakes. During his tenure, David also oversaw an operation, in this case molding, where the wrong chemical, again, was added to a machine, leading to dust and powder instead of properly formed parts. Like Yoshino, David expected punitive repercussions, but his leaders surprised him by responding differently, or I should say the same way as they did for Mr. Yoshino in Japan. Rather than reprimanding him, his supervisors treated the incident as a valuable learning opportunity. David was asked to help investigate why the error had occurred and to think critically about the broader systemic issues that might have contributed to the mistake. With the guidance of his leaders, he analyzed the processes that allowed the defective parts to be created, and he proposed improvements to prevent similar mistakes from happening in the future. This experience became a defining moment in David's career. He saw how Toyota's culture emphasized blame-free problem solving, where the focus was on understanding and fixing processes rather than assigning fault to individuals. His supervisors also recognized that the mistake stemmed not from negligence, but from flaws in the system, a lesson that David carried forward as he became an advocate for lean principles. David later moved in the transition in the consulting and teaching lean methodologies, helping other organizations adopt Toyota's systems thinking mindset. His personal experience of turning a mistake into a growth opportunity became a key part of his teachings. By sharing his story, David highlights the importance of creating environments where employees feel safe to admit errors and focus on improvement. So there are parallels and connections between these stories. One, systems thinking. Both Mr. Yoshino and David encountered mistakes that revealed underlying process flaws. Toyota's culture directed them to investigate process-based root causes rather than focus on individual error, emphasizing the importance of systems thinking in problem solving. Psychological safety. Toyota's leadership created an environment where admitting mistakes was not only safe, but encouraged. This empowered both individuals to take ownership of their actions, fostering a proactive learning culture. Third is iterative learning. Their stories illustrate Toyota's iterative approach, experimenting, learning from mistakes, and continuously improving. This iterative mindset drives both personal and organizational growth. And fourth, global impact. These lessons extend beyond Toyota, shaping how leaders in other industries view and handle mistakes, highlighting the universal applicability of a learning-focused culture. By embracing mistakes as learning opportunities, both Mr. Yoshino and David demonstrate the transformative power of psychological safety and systems thinking and fostering a culture of improvement. These principles encourage organizations to treat mistakes as catalysts for innovation rather than setbacks. Both Mr. Yoshino and David's experience reflect Toyota's commitment to fostering a culture of psychological safety, where mistakes are seen, again, as critical tools for learning. While Mr. Yoshino's story emphasizes leadership development over decades, David's account shows how Toyota's principles transcend cultures and geography, influencing individuals and industries worldwide. Their experiences illustrate that embracing mistakes leads to greater innovation, stronger systems, and more engaged employees. This helps transform organizations into engines of continuous improvement. So as we move forward, creating a blame-free, psychologically safe workplace is a journey. It requires consistent effort and a willingness to challenge entrenched norms. But the rewards, a more engaged team, better outcomes, and a culture of innovation are well worth the effort. Let's make this year where we lead with curiosity, compassion, and a commitment to continuous improvement, with psychological safety as the foundation. Let me know more if you'd like me to help you on that journey. You can always email me, mark@markgraban.com. What are your leadership resolutions for the year? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that or anything I've shared today. In the comments on the blog post, again, look in the show notes for a link or go to leanblog.org/audio406. Thanks for listening.